Brett, how have you guys found a way to motivate? And I think Jeff kind of touched on it with connecting to their why and the difference of, companion services versus, infection control and understanding how you can improve someone's life and keep them home through ADLs and Alzheimer's and dementia. But how do you get people motivated to do the training to advance their skills to make them a greater fit for a client with more complex needs?
I think that's such an important question. And Jeff and Kyle, I love your answers to the why, to invest in additional training above and beyond compliance. You could tell that you two are all in making sure that your caregivers are the best professional caregivers that they can be. And that, I'm sure, resonates throughout your organizations, and your caregivers really believe it. They feel that. And, it's so important to have that mindset to invest in your caregivers. And I'm sure that it goes the same for your agency. I could only speak to ours, but we really like to get our caregivers excited from day one. It starts at day one. It starts at orientation. We like to let our caregivers know we're investing in you. We want you to be the best professional caregivers that you can be. And you have literally hundreds of trainings at your fingertips that you can take to continue your education and better yourself as a professional. We like to discuss the importance of just growth, personal growth, professional growth. We want to be a better agency tomorrow than we are today. And we like to relay this message. We want our caregivers to be the best professional caregivers and to be better caregivers tomorrow than they are today, be better administrators tomorrow than we are today. And so just really having that positivity and relaying that message, I think, goes a long way in and of itself. Beyond that, beyond just messaging, we do pay our caregivers for every class and course that they choose to take, not just the required courses, but if a caregiver chooses to take 20, 40, 50 classes throughout the course of the year, they're going to be paid for each additional training. Usually just the desire to want to grow professionally is enough. But that being paid for every training that you take is definitely a motivator for some, and it's kind of just the icing on the cake for others. Another motivator that we found has really played a big difference is we like to print out and give out certificates at the end of our trainings. And we see from time to time a caregiver shows up at the office and they have a binder or a folder full of dozens of certificates. And they're really proud of these certificates. They're proud of the classes that they've taken and the education that they've gone through. And we're really proud of them. And that seems to really make a difference and be a motivating factor for many of our caregivers. We also believe in public recognition, right? If you have a caregiver who is just an all-star and they elect to take 15, 20 extra trainings this year to better themselves, we like to shout them out. We'll say this in the employee newsletter, or we'll say this at a team meeting and say, hey, everyone, Aisha completed 26 trainings this year. And what that does is that makes Aisha feel wonderful because you're acknowledging her amongst her peers. And then also your other caregivers on your team, they're going to look at each other and they're going to say, well, I want to be like Aisha. I want to take 27 trainings next year. I want to be a team leader. So I think that public recognition definitely serves a big purpose and helps with the motivation. And then a last way to motivate, because, although most of your caregivers are going to be self-starters, they're going to want to take an interest themselves and just learn on their own. Some do require some extra motivation. So, you might want to start a raffle or start a competition and give out awards to those that take the most amount of trainings or meet certain thresholds, and have every course that you complete, you get an entry for a raffle. And at the end of the year, at the end of the month, you give out prizes. And there are just so many ways that we can be creative to motivate our caregivers. But thankfully, and I'm sure this goes for you, Jeff and Kyle, our caregivers just love having the ability to better themselves and be the best professional caregivers that they can be.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brett. Kyle, same question for you.
That's a tough act to follow. Sounds like Brett is doing a lot of great things with this organization, and to what he has said, I think the messaging up front has to be done in a very deliberate manner. I think one of the things that agencies, I think, forget to do from time to time is really tell that story as to why. I guess into what Jeff said about the why, but why are you in this particular business, and what kind of impact are you trying to make, and really kind of relaying what the purpose of their job. I mean, this job is just so much different than any of the other industries, and so I think sometimes, your training can become somewhat methodical, but, to the extent that you can really tell your story in a positive way and really kind of relay that purpose, how important their role is. And then with that growth that I think Brett had mentioned, I mean, growth creates a lot of opportunities. And so that's a message that we really focus on when we're going through our training is, if we can continue to provide an exceptional service to our clients, that is going to create a lot more opportunities, not only for yourself, but for other individuals on our team. So that is why we are very, very growth focused. And, besides some of the messaging up front, much like Brett said, I know a lot of the companies, ourselves included, are looking at ways where we can move towards this kind of learn and earn type of concept. And so we're trying to put something together where for specific trainings that they complete, they will earn X amount of dollars on top of what their hourly wage may be. So we're still kind of coordinating that, and I'm sure a lot of members on this call who are listening, they probably already have some systems in place that are similar to that. Also, as I mentioned with the CNA training school, that's something that for our non-CNAs, we do encourage them to go through that school, and we will put them through that school for free. So that in a way is very, very motivating for them, that they realize, okay, well, the company is going to get behind me and they're going to put me through, and they can improve their skill set and so forth. And actually, last year during the pandemic, we developed that online training course that I had mentioned, and we paid our caregivers $300 just to go through that online training for the caregivers that weren't CNA. So I think that was really impactful, and I know we had a lot of positive feedback from that as well. And one that some may kind of look at a little bit differently, but from what we have found is we actually ended up hiring an all-star caregiver who really helps us with our onboarding and our training and our orientation. And having her there, we look at that as a motivation for our caregivers, because they realize that they're not going to be put out on an island. They're going to have someone that they can consistently have some dialogue with. And so this individual has been so helpful to our caregivers in calling those individuals and making sure that they're following up on maybe some of the training that they hadn't completed yet. And it's just been really a godsend in a way. And I know the caregivers have felt very, very positive and motivated to kind of do those training sessions, because they have that person that they can rely on that's going to kind of walk them through that journey. So that's something I would add that we've been doing, and we found a tremendous amount of success with it as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle. I think that's great. And I know our next question will lead into it quick. We are running short on time. So Jeff, maybe in one or two sentences, how do you think about motivation for training?
Well, I'll address. A lot of people have been messaging and talking about pay, so let me address that for just a moment. If, let's say that you wanted to require or incentivize 12 hours of CEUs, and you're concerned that you can't afford to pay for it. If the average caregiver is working 30 hours a week, that's about 1,500 hours in a year, and 12 hours against 1,500 is less than 1%. It's about 0.8%. So I would ask you, if you were to pass through a 1% rate increase, would your customers balk at that? I can tell you from a lot of personal experience, they will not, especially if you articulate that you're going to be investing into additional training for and behalf of your caregivers. Bear in mind that not all of your caregivers will choose to engage in this, but now you've essentially budgeted for being able to pay for all of this effort in providing pay for your caregivers. So I think that the motivation can come through pay. And if I had a bunch more time, I would talk about how you can also pepper in some in-person stuff, which becomes motivating because of the engagement that you can provide. But nonetheless, I think you got to pay your caregivers for doing training.